Are you feeling resilient these days? I'm Cora Naylor, certified coactive coach and an emotion co-practitioner. While we go through these trying times, it's more important than ever to look at how resilient we are and things we can do to improve it. This is an issue that a lot of women empty nesters need, especially. To give us some help, I've invited Chris Vasiliadis to join us today. Chris inspires people to use their well-being as their secret weapon to successfully lead their life. Through her business Priority Wellness, she specializes in helping stressed and depleted female solo professionals and small business owners perform at their best without killing themselves in the process. She's the author of Ignition, a professional women's guide to energized, burnout-proof living. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks so much, Cora. I'm looking forward to our discussion today.
Yeah. I know it's very trying times right now, so I'm sure you have a lot of people that can use your wisdom to help get through the days.
It is trying. I think there's a lot at work here with what's going on in the world, COVID-wise, the restrictions that are in place, racial tensions, life in general, and a lot of unknowns there. So there's a lot of challenges in folks' way to stay resilient.
Yeah, and just confusion, because normal is nothing like what normal used to be just a few months ago.
Indeed. And I think it's like, instead of feeling like you're on concrete, it's like feeling like you're on sand that's moving and changing. And I'm finding folks who can kind of learn how to navigate with that move and navigate with the flow versus pining away for what used to be or what might be is one way that can help us just stay centered and resilient.
Yeah. And so what makes you passionate about helping women be resilient?
So probably the best explanation of that is 3 years before I started my practice, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and that caused a whole bunch of lifestyle changes for me personally. At the time, I was doing marketing consulting. And so health and wellness ultimately became much more important to me. I learned what to do to take care of my health and wellness, and I learned not to take my health and wellness for granted. And so I figured out the combination of things that worked for me and keeping me steady and sane and resilient. And out of that grew a passion for wanting to help others do the same. So I made the decision to change careers and become trained and certified as a health coach. Got my initial coaching certification through an organization called Well Coaches. I simultaneously got trained as a personal trainer through the American College of Sports Medicine and hung out my shingle in the fall of 2008. And that continues to be a big passion of mine, as you said in my intro, basically helping people perform at their best without killing themselves in the process.
That's so awesome. Good for you. I know that's really common for women as we get into the empty nester stage, we're looking for different things to do. And it's amazing some of the stories what women have gone through and how they have changed their lives. So it's great to see people doing that. Because I also hear on the flip side, some women will get to the 50-ish age group and they're like, oh my God, life's over. But I'm really passionate about helping people figure out what's next. So I love your story. That's amazing.
Thank you.
So what are some challenges that you see currently with the people's ability to be resilient?
Yeah, I kind of alluded to that a little earlier. I think feeling really uncertain and feeling unknown about what's next and what's going to happen next and how long are things going to be this way and when are things going to change for ourselves, for our families, our children, what have you, that can feel overwhelming when you start to go down kind of the what if thing, the what if path. And when we go in the what if space and that spiral of thought, we are not present. And so the challenge, I think, is getting ourselves out of the what if future thought and pining away for what was pre-COVID and dealing with what's here. And that's really a first start in being resilient, is really getting yourself centered in the present and the now. You may or may not like it. It's not a matter of condoning what's happening, but it's getting into a place of acceptance that, okay, this is what's here now. How do I either be with it, or is there action that I take to cope better with it?
Mm-hmm.
respond better to it.
Right. And that's amazing. And I love that. I actually had a guest on recently, and what I loved and similar to this is, what do you have control of? There's so much stuff out there right now that we have no control of. So all we can do is take control of ourselves and what we're doing. And I think
Yeah.
that's a big stepping stone into the resilience.
It's so true. Ultimately, all we can control is our response. And if we have the awareness to see how we're responding to things, because often we can even get in our own way with our response. If we're responding in a way that is detrimental, that really isn't serving us, then we're what's the word I'm looking for? We're extending the suffering. If we're already miserable and we kind of dwell on that, we're just extending that process. It's not helping. It's not of value. It doesn't serve us. So we can decide, okay, wow, look at this. I'm responding in this way that's just bringing me down even further. What's a way that I can start? What's the next step that I can do to start to uplift that?
Yeah, and so important right now because it's easy to get wrapped up watching the news because there's so much bad stuff going on in the world that can really bring you down on top of whatever else you might be feeling.
Yeah, and part of that awareness that I was referring to is to also be aware of what are we consuming? What are we taking in? And that's news, that's what we do or don't do on social media, what we eat, whether or not we're drinking enough water. I can't tell you how many women I've spoken to who say they're not drinking enough water. They realize that. And that's just a basic human need that we need to stay hydrated. And especially now, we're recording this in the summer. So yeah, we don't have to start overhauling. And I think that's where people can also get overwhelmed, like, oh, I need to overhaul everything. You can start taking small steps to gradually building up your resilience.
Yeah, and I think, like I say, really important to just start with the basics like nutrition, because I think for a while when things were really locked down, people were going back to maybe processed foods and things for comfort, but
Yeah.
now this is going to last a lot longer, so we really need to really look at how we're nourishing our bodies, and that's a good place to start, and looking after our bodies.
Indeed, and really thinking about what nourishes us from a big picture perspective. Food is certainly an aspect of that. Water, as I said, but also what fuels you mentally, what fuels you spiritually, what fuels you emotionally. We often set those aside or forget about those aspects of us, and we're not robots. We're humans, and all those are pieces of the whole. And if we're dragging in one of those areas, it's ultimately going to pull one of the other areas down. So yeah, definitely. And again, chipping away at each of those and really getting clear on what helps me hum and be steady during the day. And often it starts with, first of all, just kind of being still. We're in a very do-heavy culture of wanting, like, okay, what more can I do? What more can I do? Let me keep busy. And I'm a proponent of, whoa, stepping back, taking a beat, welcome being still, because a lot of that time that's where the answers are going to come from. And sometimes it's tough to sit still. Some hurt and pain can come out of that. Some tough emotions can come out of that. And ultimately, that's where the answers come. And that's where clear answers come. Because if we try to make decisions from the frenetic what if place, it's ultimately garbage in, garbage out. where we allow ourselves to be still. And being still might be sitting still. It might be journaling. It might be talking out loud to yourself, processing however you need to process what's happening for you and observing what's happening for you, and then being able to take a wise action from that place.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I know that's one of the things I always recommend to my clients too. And every time I do that and my clients take that time to have the quiet time, that, like you say, they come out with the most brilliant ideas of things that they're looking to do. And I know for me, I struggled with that for a while too, because I'm always inputting, and we have so much information coming at us all the time. So every second you sit down, even when you sit down to relax, and you pick up your phone and you're on Facebook. So it's taking a few minutes, either once a day or throughout the day. 5 or 10 minutes even can make a difference. And
Totally agree.
yeah, a lot of people, say they don't want to try meditating because they can't sit still, but there's different ways to do that. Even just getting out for a walk, but being present with your nature while you're out there.
Right. You can simply, and I hear that a lot too from people, and I think there's a lot of notions about that. Some people think, oh, I don't have 45 minutes to sit. Okay, you don't need 45. You could use 5. You could use 10. And you could sit. You can, again, do a walking meditation. You can stretch. Just ways to just be away from the technology, avoiding, we're so much in the default mode of when we're either waiting in line somewhere or waiting for an appointment or waiting for someone. The default is like to pick up our phone and start flipping through. And I tell people just to be aware of that. And it's not a judgment thing. It's more of and to be punitive about it. It's to be aware of, wow, we're really tied to these phones. Let me, and taking in information. Let me just take a beat. And you can you can very simply just watch an in and out breath. You can tune into your senses, just literally look around the room, or if you're outside, look outside. Okay, what can I see? Name something you can see, name something you can smell, name something you hear, and all that. Feel your feet in your shoes. That can be a way to start grounding you and centering you. Think about a palm tree that sways when you see the footage of a hurricane happening somewhere, and a palm tree that sways back and forth. It's got that, it might bend back and forth, but ultimately it's standing straight. And that's what we're trying to create for us. That's to me, if you need an image of resilience, to me, that's the image of resilience, is finding a way to just, even though you might be like knocked around from side to side of it, what brings you back and grounds you again.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing. If somebody is looking for, how to gain some control of their resilience, just take small steps. And like you say, being aware, because I know that's one of the things for me. I'll be looking at my phone just out of boredom. Like, we've forgotten how to kind of just be how to just be. If we're waiting in a lineup somewhere, right away we got 5 minutes and we're already on our phone checking stuff on the phone, instead of just hanging out there and noticing what's around. You can almost do a meditation while you're waiting in a lineup to get into a store right now.
It's so true. You could do it then. And also, like, avoiding grabbing the phone the first thing in the morning when you wake up too. Give yourself some space before you look at the phone. Like, actually feel your body before you get out of bed. Think about what you want to create for the day. What's going to help you win the day? And have that all in mind before you use any technology or check your email or check messages or what have you. Really, and then feel your feet on the ground when you get out of bed.
Because we forget. I mean, for us, it's easier. We were around in the days before cell phones, so we can remember those days. Our kids are not in the same place, so it's interesting. But yeah, I love what you're saying, and it's so important right now, especially when the emotions are such a roller coaster. We have days that are good and days that are not, and you almost can't explain it because it's all the outside forces that are on us. So it's really important for us to step back once in a while and take a look at really what is important to us and keeping us, in that good grounded space.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I agree. And I think a lot of people look externally for ways to fix things, when here it's just so important to just go within.
Yeah.
And it sounds simple and it sounds almost counterintuitive. Mm-hmm. Again, it's such a do heavy thing, like, well, just tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. Just be.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would invite people for whom they're like, I'm not so sure about that, or they feel skeptical. Just give it a try. We've named a number of different ways you can do that in this conversation.
Right. And so if I know you've got, as we're wrapping up here, something to offer, if people want some more information, or maybe they can get in touch with you, we've got on the screen right now both of our websites running along the bottom. And what have you got, Chris, that if they want to get in touch with you and keep in touch?
Sure, and thanks for that invitation too, Cora. So as you see my website going by, my website's the PriorityWellness.com site. And if you go to that website, I have a free monthly newsletter. It's called Energizing You, and I have helpful articles in it and also programs that I have coming up. So if you subscribe to that, I send you a thank you, and in the form of a free weekly energizing reset worksheet that you can use. And that helps you kind of both plan the next week and evaluate the previous week in terms of the energies that are using for your best fuel.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm sure everybody could use that right now. And if you're an empty nester and you'd like to get some support from other women empty nesters, comment below with a yes, and I'll get you added into my Empty Nest Facebook group. And that'll also get you notifications so you can find out other interviews that we have coming up soon. So Chris, thanks so much for being my guest today. I love your topic and it's so meaningful, especially in these times.
Thanks so much, Cora. I enjoyed speaking with you today.
Okay, and see everybody else soon.